Heal me for $2 million, the billionaire laughed, until the black janitor's daughter did it in seconds. $2 million to fix what Harvard couldn't figure out? Sure, janitor's kid. When you fail, you're fired, along with your father. Robert Hooke said it loud enough for the entire boardroom to hear. 9:15 p.m. on a Thursday in March. 58 degrees outside, but the executive floor of Hooke Pharmaceuticals felt colder. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Boston's skyline, glass towers glowing with the kind of wealth that makes decisions about other people's lives. Hooke slouched in his $47,000 custom ergonomic chair, face drained of color, one hand pressed against his lower back like he could physically hold the pain inside. 8 board members sat frozen around the mahogany conference table, crystal water glasses catching light, untouched. Nobody drinking, nobody moving, just watching. Sophia Richards stood 4 feet away, 16 years old. Her father's custodial uniform, polo visible under her open jacket, navy blue with Hooke Pharmaceuticals embroidered on the chest, the uniform Marcus had worn for 14 years of invisible service. She clutched her AP biology textbook to her chest like armor, like proof, like something solid when everything else was spinning out of control. "Sir, I can't help," she'd said quietly, voice steady despite the shaking in her hands. "I know what's wrong with your back." Hooke's laugh was sharp, not amused, desperate, edged with agony. "You? A 16-year-old janitor's daughter is going to heal me when 3 orthopedic surgeons from Harvard, Mass General, and Johns Hopkins couldn't." He leaned forward, pain flashing across his face with the movement. "Tell me, kid, how long would this miracle take?" Sophia's voice didn't waver. "Less than a minute, sir. Maybe 30, 40 seconds if I do it right." The boardroom erupted in scattered laughter. Nervous, disbelieving. Catherine Mills, the CFO, looked at Marcus Richards standing in the hallway, mop and bucket abandoned. Dr. James Porter, chief medical officer, had his phone out, finger hovering over 911. 2 other board members were recording on their phones. The $2 million challenge hung in the air like a guillotine, and everyone could see exactly who would lose their head when this impossible gamble failed. Sophia whispered, barely audible over the chaos. "I accept your terms, Mr. Hooke, but I need to examine you first." 35 minutes earlier, Sophia hadn't meant to be there at all. She'd taken a number 47 bus from Dorchester with a Tupperware container of leftover pasta balanced on her lap, and her biology textbook opened to Chapter 12, Musculoskeletal Pathologies. Her father had been pulling double shifts for 2 weeks straight. Night custodial, then overtime maintenance, trying to cover her AP exam fees. $450 total. 6 exams. The difference between a decent college application and an extraordinary one. The difference between maybe and yes. Their apartment had 2 bedrooms for 4 people. Sophia shared with her 10-year-old brother James, who she tutored every night after finishing her own homework. Her mother, Angela, worked as a home health aide, $16 an hour, 40 hours when she could get them, taking care of elderly patients who couldn't take care of themselves. 3 jobs between 2 parents. Still barely enough. But Sophia had something most people didn't: access. For 2 years, she'd been teaching herself medicine through an accident of proximity and a doctor's extraordinary kindness. Dr. Ellen Shun had found her 6 months ago in the Boston General Hospital cafeteria at 8:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. Sophia had been sitting alone at a corner table, surrounded by medical journals she'd pulled from the recycling bins outside. Coffee-stained, torn, discarded subscriptions that doctors threw away like trash. To Sophia, they were gold. Dr. Chin had sat down without asking. "Where did you get these?" "The bins outside the research wing. They throw them away every Monday." Sophia had looked up, terrified she was in trouble. "I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to. What are you studying?" Sophia had gestured to the journal spread open in front of her. Journal of Emergency Medicine, March 2023 issue. Acute Compartment Syndrome. Fasciotomy Procedures. The article says you have 6 hours before permanent muscle damage, but the earlier you catch it, the better the outcome. Dr. Chun had stared. Then she'd started asking questions. Within 10 minutes, she'd realized this 16-year-old janitor's daughter understood complex medical concepts that confused first-year residents. Within 20, she made an offer. Come Tuesday and Thursday evenings. Don't tell administration. This isn't official. But watch, observe, learn everything you can. Since then, Sophia had spent every Tuesday and Thursday evening shadowing rounds. Emergency procedures, diagnostic consultations, Dr. Chan explaining, Sophia absorbing, memorizing, understanding with the intensity of someone who knew this might be her only chance. No money for pre-med summer programs. No connections to prestigious internships. Just observation and desperate, consuming determination to become the doctor her family needed. The doctor her grandmother never got. Catherine Eloise Richard had died in an emergency room waiting room in 2010. Pulmonary embolism. She told the intake nurse something was really wrong. They'd told her to wait. She'd waited 4 hours. By the time they called her name, she was already unconscious. Dead 20 minutes later. Sophia had been 6 years old, but she remembered every detail. Her grandmother's gasping, the nurses walking past, the word wait repeated like a mantra, like policy, like law. Wait, 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 until it was too late. Tonight, Sophia had arrived at Hook Pharmaceuticals at 8:45 p.m., taken a service elevator. The one employees like her father used, the one executives never saw, to the executive floor. She'd found Marcus outside the boardroom, industrial mop and yellow caution signs, invisible as always. Through the glass walls, she'd seen the meeting inside. Robert Hook, billionaire CEO, grimacing every 3 to 4 minutes, shifting his weight constantly, always to the left side, reaching behind to press his lower back with increasing frequency. His face tight, his movements careful, controlled, like someone trying very hard not to show how much pain they were in. Sophia recognized the pattern immediately. She'd watched Hook stand abruptly, his face contorting. His hand shot to his lower back. He tried to straighten. Couldn't. His spine locked at a forward angle, body rigid, unable to extend. The meeting erupted in concern. Someone suggested calling his physician. Another mentioned ending the meeting early. Hook waved them off, but Sophia could see the panic in his eyes beneath the executive composure. This wasn't chronic pain. This was acute crisis. Acute lumbar facet joint lock. L4, L5, probably right side based on his weight distribution. She'd seen it twice during her time with Dr. Chun. Both times, patients had thought they were dying, kidney failure, herniated disc, spinal cord injury. Both times, Dr. Chun had resolved it in under a minute with a specific manipulation technique. Gentle traction, precise rotation angle, controlled thrust. Instantaneous release. Marcus noticed her watching. Sophia, what are you doing here? Baby, you need to go home. I'm working. Dad. Sophia's voice was quiet but urgent. Mr. Hook, I know what's wrong with him. Marcus's face went pale. Sophia. No, absolutely not. You can't. These people don't. The boardroom door opened. Catherine Mills emerged, scanning the hallway with the desperate efficiency of someone used to solving problems. Excuse me, is there medical staff on this floor? Mr. Hook is in severe distress. Sophia stepped forward before her father could stop her. I can help. 8:40 p.m. The bus rattled down Dorchester Avenue, its windows fogged with November condensation. Sophia balanced a Tupperware container of leftover pasta on her lap, her AP Biology textbook open across her knees. She read the same paragraph 3 times without absorbing it. Thursdays were visit nights, her unspoken ritual. 2 times a week, she carried dinner to her father during his double shifts at Hook Pharmaceuticals. It was an obligation so much as rhythm. Her mother's night shift as a home health aide. Her brother Caleb's math worksheets spread across their kitchen table. The rent due every month like a stopwatch ticking in the background. She was 16, but the eldest in a family that could not afford mistakes. Through the window, the city blurred by brick buildings, neon diners, the glow of hospitals she wasn't allowed to belong to yet. She imagined herself inside one of them. A white coat instead of a backpack, the sound of monitors instead of bus brakes. Then the fantasy folded in on itself. Dreams were luxuries. She'd learned that early. The service elevator at Hook Pharmaceuticals smelled faintly of bleach and metal polish. Sophia knew every scuff mark on its walls. Her father's world was hidden behind the executive glass, polished marble above, industrial corridors below. Two Americas stacked in one building. She found him mopping near the boardroom, exhaustion carved deep into his face. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered, though his eyes softened when he saw the Tupperware. "I won't stay long," she promised. But then her gaze caught on the glass wall, on Robert Hook shifting in his chair, hand pressed against his back, jaw tight with pain. Something was wrong. Her training with Dr. Ellen Chun flickered in her memory. The night she'd been caught in Boston General's cafeteria, surrounded by discarded medical journals. "Where did you get these?" Dr. Chun had asked. "The bin's outside," Sophia had said simply. That night had changed everything. Now, watching Hook struggle, her instincts roared awake. "Dad," she whispered, "I know what's happening." Marcus shook his head. Sophia, no, but was already too late. Through the glass, Hook staggered upright, face twisting. The room erupted in alarm. Sophia dropped her backpack, her pulse steady despite the chaos. She was invisible until this moment. 8:50 p.m. Through the glass, Sophia watched the billionaire unravel. Robert Hook's body betrayed him in increments, tiny, precise misfires that only someone who'd spent hours observing pain could notice. His right shoulder dipped every time he breathed. His spine refused to extend. His left hand braced the table edge while his right hip carried all his weight, the subtle geometry of desperation. Her brain, trained by quiet repetition beside Dr. Chun, began to map the symptoms in real time. Unilateral pain, right-sided. Limited flexion, complete loss of extension. Antalgic posture, leaning forward, compensating for something mechanical. The face, drawn tight, teeth clenched, pupils dilated in acute distress. Not chronic pain, this was sudden like a switch flipped inside the body. Her eyes tracked the chair behind him. Custom ergonomic, top of the line, but the angle was wrong, posterior tilt of the pelvis, lumbar curve flattened. She remembered Dr. Chin's lectures about alignment. Sometimes the problem isn't the spine. It's the architecture around it. Sophia's thoughts moved faster than her fear. Not herniation. He'd be guarding differently. Not kidney stones. Pain would radiate forward. Not muscular spasm. This was too clean, too abrupt. Facet joint lock. Acute. Mechanical. Reversible. Her pulse quickened as memory took over. Two cases, two recoveries that had seared themselves into her brain. The first, a construction worker, 45, collapsed outside the loading dock at Boston General. He'd screamed that his legs were gone. Dr. Chun had placed 2 fingers on his spine, asked him to breathe, then adjusted his hips with a smooth, practiced motion. A crack, then silence. The man stood, blinking, whispering, "What did you do?" The second, a grandmother brought into the ER 6 weeks ago, writhing in pain while 3 doctors debated emergency surgery. Dr. Chun had arrived between shifts, still in her scrubs, and within 40 seconds the woman was walking. Sophia had stood frozen in awe, understanding for the first time how precision could undo agony. Now the pattern replayed before her eyes. Except the patient was a man worth billions, and she was a 16-year-old girl standing in a janitor's hallway. Her stomach twisted. If she acted, her father could lose everything. If she didn't, Hook could collapse before the ambulance even arrived. She heard her mother's voice, quiet but firm, the words she'd grown up on. "If you can help and you don't, that's when you've failed." Sophia swallowed hard. "No," she whispered to herself. "Not tonight." Her father's voice broke her focus. "Sophia, what are you looking at?" Marcus leaned on his mop handle, following her gaze through the glass. "Baby, you need to go home. Now." She didn't turn. "Dad, I know what's wrong with him." "Sophia." His tone was low, warning. "It's a facet joint lock," she said, her voice trembling just once. "I've seen it twice. I know how to fix it." Marcus stared at her, torn between pride and dread. "Sophia, you can't say things like that here. These people don't see us. They won't listen." But she was already imagining the sequence. The traction angle, the controlled rotation, the sound of release. The technique lived in her hands like muscle memory. Beyond the glass, Hook's face contorted again. Someone was on the phone. Another held water, chaos humming under fluorescent light. Sophia pressed her palm to the cool glass, heart steady now. She didn't know it yet, but the next minute would change all of their lives. The boardroom door burst open. Catherine Mills stepped into the hallway, eyes wild. Is there medical staff on this floor? 8:55 p.m. The boardroom door swung wide, and the world of glass and money gaped open before her. Catherine Mills stood there, framed by fluorescent light and panic. Is there medical staff on this floor? Sophia stepped forward before fear could claim her. I can help. Catherine blinked, registering the girl before her. 16, uniform polo beneath a hoodie, biology textbook clutched to her chest. A janitor's daughter, not a doctor. Honey, she said carefully, we need actual medical help. Sophia's voice didn't waver. I've been training under Dr. Ellen Shun at Boston General for 2 years. Mr. Hook's symptoms are consistent with an acute lumbar facet joint lock. It looks catastrophic, but it's fixable in under a minute. Behind Catherine, Hook groaned, clutching the table for balance. His face was white with pain. Catherine hesitated. The girl's words were absurd, but the conviction in her tone made her pause. Marcus appeared, mortified. Ms. Mills, I'm so sorry. This is my daughter. She shouldn't. Dad, Sophia interrupted, her voice sharp with urgency. He needs help right now. The dynamic was unbearable. Marcus apologizing for his daughter's existence while executives stared, some pitying, others sneering. A young intern whispered, Who is she? Then, through the chaos, came the voice that silenced everyone. Let her talk. Hook's words were strained, but they cut through the room like a command. Every head turned. He was standing crookedly, sweat slicking his forehead, but his eyes, sharp despite the pain, were on Sophia. He gestured her forward. Come here, kid. Tell me what you think you know. Marcus froze. Sir, please, she's just. Hook waved him off. Then let's hear her. Sophia stepped into the boardroom. Her sneakers squeaked faintly against polished marble. Marcus followed, still holding his mop, as a security guard lingered uncertainly by the door. Hook's voice was ragged but mocking. 3 orthopedic surgeons, Harvard, Mass General, Johns Hopkins. 6 months of appointments, scans, injections. Nothing works. What makes you think a 16-year-old janitor's daughter knows something they don't? The words hit like a slap, but Sophia met his gaze. May I examine your movement patterns and pain location? A ripple went through the board. Dr. James Porter, Chief Medical Officer, leaned forward, curiosity sparking despite protocol. Hook gave a short, disbelieving laugh. Go on then. Enlighten us. Sophia moved closer, her hands trembling but precise. Please bend forward as far as you can. He did, barely 20 degrees before pain forced him still. Try leaning back, she said softly. Hook winced immediately, breath catching. Impossible. Rotate to the right. Nothing. The joint refused. Now left. He turned farther, but his right hip compensated visibly. She pressed lightly against his lower back, just above the pelvis. Here, he hissed. There, exactly there. Paraspinal spasm at L4, L5, she murmured, half to herself. Facet joint tenderness. Then, more clearly, you have an acute lumbar facet joint lock at L4, L5 on the right side. The small joints that guide your spine's movement are mechanically stuck together. That's why extension is impossible, and why the pain feels sharp instead of dull. The room was silent, except for Hook's uneven breathing. The board exchanged glances, some incredulous, others thoughtful. Dr. Porter leaned forward. That fits his presentation. Hook narrowed his eyes. And where did you learn that? Medical school for janitors' kids. Sophia didn't flinch. Observation. And Dr. Chen's mentorship. She turned, pointing to the sleek, ergonomic chair behind him. That's part of your problem. Hook frowned. My chair. The pelvic tilt is wrong. It's been positioning your lumbar spine in flexion for hours every day, creating muscular imbalance and repetitive joint stress. You've been sitting in it how long? Hook's expression shifted from disbelief to realization. 8, maybe 10 hours a day. It cost $47,000. Custom made. It's custom making you worse, Sophia said quietly. The facet lock is acute, tonight's crisis. But the chair is chronic, the reason it keeps happening. For a long moment, no one spoke. Hook stared at her, eyes unreadable. Then, to everyone's shock, he laughed. Not cruelly this time, but with a raw, desperate edge. Okay, he said, straightening with effort. Okay, janitor's kid. Here's the deal. 9 p.m. Hook leaned against the table, every breath catching like a misfired gear. His face was slick with sweat, but his voice came out steady, too steady. All right, kid, let's make this interesting. He looked straight at Sophia. You fix me in under a minute, like you claim, and I'll write you a check for $2 million. Right here, right now, in front of everyone. The room froze. A few gasps broke the silence. Someone muttered, he's lost it. Sophia blinked, unsure she'd heard correctly. $2 million. Then Hook's tone darkened. But when you fail, and you will fail because you're 16 years old, with no medical degree, no credentials, and no business standing in this room, your father loses his job. Both of you gone tonight. Security will escort you out. You'll never step foot in this building again. The words hit like a hammer. Marcus's face went paper white. Sir, please no. Hook smiled faintly, though pain twitched at the edges of it. My company, my back, my money, my rules. Robert, Catherine Mills snapped, stepping forward. This isn't. He cut her off with a raised hand. Don't start, Catherine. I've spent half a year trapped in my own body. If the janitor's kid thinks she can fix what Harvard can't, then let's find out. The board shifted uneasily, some watching with grim fascination, others too entertained to intervene. Marcus stepped closer, voice breaking. Mr. Hook, please. I've worked here 14 years. Never missed a shift. I clean this floor every night. Please don't do this to us. His voice trembled under the weight of years of invisibility, years of being the man who emptied trash cans no one saw. He turned to Sophia, pleading, Baby, we can't. Your college fund, your future, everything we've worked for. Sophia looked from her father to Hook. The world seemed to narrow around her heartbeat. Her father's fear, Hook's agony, the clock ticking somewhere behind her. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. Medicine isn't about who deserves help. It's about who needs it. Sophia met Hook's gaze. I accept your terms. Marcus staggered back as if struck. Sophia, no. She turned to him, eyes steady. Dad, trust me. I know what I'm doing. Dr. Porter stood abruptly. This is insane. Robert, if she injures you, the liability. I'm taking full responsibility, Hook interrupted. Everyone here's a witness. I'm asking her to do this. Catherine sighed, pulling out her phone. Then we're recording everything. Timestamp, consent, the whole thing. Around the table, others followed suit. Screens lit up, lenses turning toward Sophia. The moment was no longer whispered or deniable. It was official. Sophia drew a slow breath. I need you to move to a different chair, she said, her voice clinical calm. That one's part of the problem. Hook raised an eyebrow, but obeyed, grimacing as he shifted. I need everyone to step back and give me space, she continued. And I need to wash my hands thoroughly. Something in her tone, command, not request, startled the room into motion. Executives pushed chairs aside. Catherine guided Hook to a plain metal chair against the wall. The boardroom transformed, its marble and glass rearranging itself into an impromptu operating theater. Sophia disappeared into the adjoining restroom. The sound of running water filled the tense silence. She scrubbed for a full 30 seconds methodically between fingers under nails up to her wrists, exactly as Dr. Chan had taught her. Marcus stood in the doorway, mop forgotten, watching his daughter as if seeing her for the first time. When Sophia re-entered, her hands were still damp but steady. She faced Hook, eyes clear. Mr. Hook, she said quietly, this is going to hurt more before it gets better. Don't fight me. Don't tense up. Just breathe and count with me. Catherine lifted her phone. The red record light blinked. Starting timer now. 9:03 and 17 seconds p.m. 9:03 p.m. Sophia's hands rested gently on Robert Hooke's lower spine. Her palms were steady despite the tremor in her breath. "Okay," she murmured. "I'm going to find the joint line. Tell me when you feel it." Her fingers traced the landmark she'd memorized under Dr. Chen's watch. L4, L5, the facet joint ridge. Hooke hissed when she pressed lightly on the right side. "That's it," he gasped. "Right there. That's where it." "I know," she said calmly. "That's the locked joint. I can feel it." Hooke nodded, jaw set, sweat running down his temple despite the air conditioning. "I need you to lean forward slightly," Sophia instructed. "Hands on your knees. Let your back muscles relax. Don't help me. Don't resist me. This will take 30 to 40 seconds of sustained pressure and movement. Just breathe and count with me." Hooke inhaled shakily. The boardroom held its breath. Seconds 1 to 8. Traction. Sophia positioned one hand on his pelvis, the other on his lower spine. She pulled gently, creating space between the vertebrae. Hooke's breathing came shallow and uneven. "Count with me," Sophia said. Out loud. "Everyone. 1, 2, 3. The board echoed, voices hesitant. Marcus couldn't look. He turned away, covering his face with both hands. Seconds 9 to 18. Rotation. Sophia shifted her stance, rotating Hooke's torso in a precise, measured arc. The movement separated the joint surfaces by millimeters. Hooke gasped, "God, that's..." "Keep counting. Don't tense up." 10, 11, 12. Catherine's phone camera captured every second, timestamp blinking red. Dr. Porter leaned in, eyes wide, his skepticism melting into fascination. Seconds 19 to 28. Sustained pressure. Sophia increased the pressure through rotation, using her entire body weight. Hooke's face reddened, veins straining at his neck. "This is the hard part," she warned. "Stay with me." 19, 20, 21. Marcus whispered a prayer under his breath. The room went utterly still. Every inhale synchronized with Hooke's ragged breathing. Sophia felt for the shift, the subtle, invisible give beneath her fingertips. Seconds 29 to 34. The release. There, the resistance melted. She adjusted her angle, delivered a single precise thrust. A sharp, audible click, not loud, but unmistakable. Hooke's entire body jerked. "OH," the sound ripped out of him, half pain, half relief. 34. Catherine announced, voice trembling. 9:03 and 51 seconds p.m. Sophia stepped back, hands releasing. Hooke stayed frozen, breathing fast, eyes wide. No one moved. "Dad," Sophia whispered. "It's done." Marcus lowered his hands, terrified to hope. "Sophia." Hooke blinked, then slowly bent forward. No pain. Straightened. No pain. Twisted right, then left, fluid smooth. He stood taller, his spine aligned. His voice cracked. "The pain is completely gone." The room erupted. Someone shouted, "Oh my God." Catherine's camera shook in her trembling hands. Dr. Porter muttered, "That's impossible. That's actually impossible." Hooke took a cautious step forward, then another, then 4 in a row, walking normally for the first time in 6 months. He laughed, wild and breathless. 6 months. 6 months, and you fixed it in 34 seconds. Marcus stumbled toward his daughter, pulling her into a fierce embrace. "Baby, you did it. You actually did it." His tears soaked into her hair. Sophia clung to him, shaking, adrenaline crashing into relief. Across the room, Hooke turned. For the first time, he truly saw her, not as a janitor's daughter, not as a child, but as the person who had given him his life back. He crossed the room, each step steady, pain-free. Then, astonishingly, he dropped to one knee before her, bringing himself level with her wide, tear-streaked eyes. "What's your full name, kid?" 9:05 p.m. Hooke was still kneeling when he asked, softly, "What's your name?" "Sophia Richard, sir." "Sophia Richard." He repeated it, as though memorizing the syllables. "How old are you?" 16. 16, he echoed, shaking his head slightly. "And you learned this where exactly?" Sophia hesitated, then spoke. "Dr. Ellen Shun, Boston General. I've been shadowing her for 2 years, unofficially." She found me in the hospital cafeteria reading old medical journals from the recycling bin. She started letting me watch rounds, take notes, learn techniques. I read everything, and I remember everything. Hook blinked, the disbelief softening into wonder. Slowly, he reached for his jacket pocket, withdrawing a checkbook. His hands still trembled faintly, but his movements were deliberate. He wrote carefully, each word deliberate. Pay to the order of Sophia Richard. Amount, $2 million. Date, March 21st, 2024. He signed it, tore the check free, and held it out toward her. You earned every penny of this. Sophia stared at the check, but didn't take it. Her hands trembled, but they stayed at her sides. Marcus's voice broke the silence. Sophia, baby, take it. That's $2 million. That's your college, your future, everything. Catherine added softly, sweetheart, that's life-changing money. Even Dr. Porter spoke up. Young lady, you provided medical care none of us could. You deserve compensation. Sophia looked at Hook, eyes steady. I didn't do it for money, Mr. Hook. The room fell completely silent. I did it because you were in pain, and I knew I could help. She took a shaky breath. My mom's a home health aide. She makes $16 an hour taking care of people who can't take care of themselves. She never asks if they can pay more. She just helps because they need it. She always told me medicine isn't about payment. It's about healing. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Sophia continued, her tone returning to clinical precision. But you should know, the manipulation was temporary relief. Hook blinked, startled. Temporary? Yes, sir. The real problem is structural. That chair you use, its tilt and lumbar angle are wrong. It's been forcing your spine into flexion for hours at a time, creating muscular imbalance and repetitive joint stress. Without correcting that, you'll have another facet lock in 3 to 4 weeks. She outlined her plan with calm authority, a new ergonomic assessment, a standing desk, postural retraining, and physical therapy for core and hip mobility. She even demonstrated a corrective stretch beside the board table. Dr. Porter watched, overtaking skepticism. That's exactly what I'd prescribe. Word for word. Catherine stared. Where did you learn treatment protocols? The same journals Dr. Chan lets me read, Sophia said simply. I memorized them. Hook studied her in silence. Then, voice low, he asked, why did you step forward tonight? Why risk your father's job? Sophia looked at her father, his uniform, his mop, his tears, and then back at Hook. Because 14 years ago, my grandmother died in an ER waiting room, she said softly. She kept telling nurses something was wrong. They kept saying she had to wait. For hours later, she was gone. Pulmonary embolism. The air in the room grew heavy. Tonight, through that glass, I saw you in pain. Real pain. And I knew what was wrong. I knew I could fix it. If I walked away, if I stayed invisible like my dad's supposed to be, I'd be just another person who didn't listen when someone needed help. Her voice broke. I couldn't do that. I couldn't be that person. Hook stared at her for a long, unblinking moment. Then, with deliberate care, he tore the $2 million check in half, then in quarters, then again, until the pieces fluttered across the gleaming conference table like snow. 9:15 p.m. Hook stood at the head of the room, the torn check pieces scattered like white petals across the table. His voice was steady now, low, controlled, carrying weight. Money isn't what you need, Sophia. Marcus flinched. Mr. Hook, what are you? Hook raised a hand. Your daughter just demonstrated knowledge and precision that most medical residents don't have. Money is easy. I have money. What she needs is opportunity. He reached for his phone, dialing from memory. The boardroom held its breath. Dean Morrison? Robert Hook. Yes, I know it's late. I'm enrolling a student in your pre-med program. Fall semester. He pressed the speaker button so everyone could hear. Sophia Richard, 16 years old, just performed a lumbar facet joint manipulation that fixed what 3 of your Harvard orthopedic surgeons couldn't. A pause, then another, longer one. Yes, I'm completely serious, Hook said. Full scholarship. Tuition, room, board, books, everything. I'll endow a chair if I have to, but this girl is going to Harvard. He ended the call and immediately dialed again. Sarah? Robert Hook. I need a fully furnished apartment near Harvard. 2 bedrooms. Family of 4. Move-in ready by Sunday night. Full kitchen, linens, stocked fridge, the works. Marcus started to protest. Mr. Hook, we have an apartment. Hook covered the phone, meeting his eyes. In Dorchester. 2 bedrooms for 4 people. Your daughter's going to Harvard. Your family's moving to Cambridge. Non-negotiable. Before Marcus could reply, Hook was already dialing again. Jenkins? Hook Pharmaceuticals. Create a facilities manager position. Start Monday. Marcus Richard. 14 years on custodial staff. Flawless record. Salary. $95,000 plus full benefits. Marcus's knees buckled. Catherine moved quickly, catching his arm. Hook's tone softened. His daughter saved my life. He's earned every opportunity one can give him. Then Hook turned toward the board. All of you need to hear this. His voice changed, less command, more confession. 15 years ago, my daughter Emily was 19. Sophomore at Princeton. Pre-med, like she'd always wanted. The boardroom went still. None of them had ever heard him speak her name aloud. She went to student health complaining of headaches. They told her it was stress. Gave her Tylenol. Sent her away. His throat tightened. She went back 3 times. 3 times they dismissed her. His next words broke apart. The 4th time, she collapsed in her dorm. Cerebral aneurysm. By the time they figured it out, it was too late. He stared down at the table. She kept saying something was really wrong. Nobody listened. Catherine's hand went to her mouth. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Hook inhaled slowly. I built this company because I swore I'd make medicine better, better diagnostics, better care. But tonight, he looked at Sophia. I realized I've never met anyone like you. 16 years old, teaching yourself medicine out of trash because you refuse to let people die unheard. He straightened, addressing the room. Emergency board vote. I'm establishing the Richard Medical Scholars Program. $50 million. Full scholarships for overlooked students who want to pursue medicine. Priority to children of service workers, home health aides, custodians, people this industry depends on but never sees. Catherine's voice was firm. All in favor? Every hand rose. Unanimous. Dr. Porter's voice trembled. Robert. Emily would be proud. Hook nodded, unable to speak. Sophia bent, gathering the torn check pieces into her hands. Can we donate these to the scholarship program? She asked softly. As the first contribution, September 2024. The morning air over Harvard Medical School shimmered with early autumn light. The trees along Longwood Avenue brushed in amber and gold. Students hurried past in pressed jackets and polished shoes, nervous laughter floating through the crisp air. Sophia Richard stood just inside the gates, the red brick facades of Harvard rising before her. Her reflection in the glass doors stared back. No janitor's uniform this time, just a neat blazer and calm, determined eyes. Beside her stood her father, Marcus, straight-backed in a Navy suit. Her mother, Angela, held her hand, and her little brother James bounced beside them, face glowing with pride. They weren't alone. 7 other students walked with her, the Richard Scholars, the first cohort. David Chun, said the tall boy beside her, grinning nervously. Cafeteria worker's kid. Still can't believe I'm here. Aisha Thompson, another said softly. Foster care. Public library was my med school until now. Miguel Santos, added the youngest. My parents clean hotel rooms. Guess the mop gene runs strong. They all laughed quietly. 8 students who had once been invisible, now walking through Harvard's front doors. Inside, the grand lecture hall radiated history. Polished oak, marble plaques, 2 centuries of medicine echoing through the walls. Dean Morrison stood at the podium. Welcome to Harvard Medical School, he began, his voice booming over the packed hall. Sophia sat between David and Aisha, her hands trembling slightly. This was real. She was actually here. Then the dean continued. We have a special guest. Someone transforming how we think about medical education and access. When Robert Hook stepped onto the stage, Sophia's breath caught. She hadn't known he would be here. Hook looked out over the students, his voice firm but warm. 6 months ago, he began, I learned something that should have been obvious. Genius has no address. Brilliance wears no uniform, and the people we overlook might be the ones we most need. He told the story, without names, of a 16-year-old girl who fixed in 34 seconds what Harvard specialists couldn't fix in 6 months. She didn't do it for money or recognition, he said, but because she couldn't stand to see someone suffer when she knew she could help. The room was silent. Hook spoke of progress. 50 Richard Scholars funded across 15 schools, partnerships with 20 hospitals, mentorship programs led by Dr. Chun at Boston General. We're finding brilliance in the break rooms, the laundries, the night shifts, he said, and we're giving it a chance to change the world. After the ceremony, Sophia found him in the hallway. "How's the apartment?" he asked. "Perfect," she smiled. "James has his own room for the first time. Your father?" "Thriving. Leads the facilities team now. Loves it. And you? Ready for this?" Sophia exhaled. "6 months ago, I was bringing my dad dinner in a Tupperware container. Now I'm here, with 7 others who were just as invisible as me. I keep waiting to wake up." Hook's eyes softened. "You earned this, Sophia. Every bit of it." That night wasn't luck. It was courage, compassion, and years of learning when no one was teaching. Sophia reached into her backpack and handed him a photograph. "This is my grandmother, Catherine Eloise Richard. She died in an ER waiting room in 2010. I'm going to be the doctor who listens. The one who sees the people no one sees." Hook stared at the photo, his voice barely above a whisper. "Emily, my daughter. She would have liked you." Marcus appeared then, still in his facilities uniform. Hook turned to him. "Marcus, your daughter's going to change medicine." Marcus smiled, eyes shining. "She already has, Mr. Hook. She already has." As orientation ended, students drifted towards study groups. Sophia walked forward with the other Richard Scholars. Her parents watched from a distance, Hook beside them, hands folded. Some miracles take 34 seconds, Sophia thought. The ripples last generations. This is just the beginning. Her hand touched the cool glass of the Harvard Medical School door. Her reflection stared back, not the janitor's daughter anymore, but a future doctor. Behind her reflection, 7 others waited. Together, they stepped through. Dr. Chun had been right that night in the cafeteria. Sometimes the people who fight hardest to learn medicine become exactly the doctors the world needs most. Thank you for staying to the very end. If you are amazed by this interesting story, hit the like button, comment, and subscribe because tomorrow's story will be more interesting than this. Thank you.